So, in anticipation of Joker Part 2, I thought I would talk about Joker Part 1 and how much of a monumental film it is and how influential it is. So, I thought I'd start talking about, what made the Joker, and why it's so popular. So, the Joker was unprecedented. It was the first R-rated film that hit $1 billion, and I think it did a really good job of portraying, 80s New York with modern technology and cameras, and almost as if we're watching a much more modern version of the movie Taxi. And I think that's why Robert De Niro was in the movie as a kind of an homage to the original film. And I thought Joaquin Phoenix's performance was brilliant. I think he was a believable mentally ill person who slowly becomes more and more sociopathic as life becomes slowly more depressing, even oppressive, and seemingly just forever antagonistic. This movie also does something that isn't new, but it portrays a sympathetic anti-hero in that we know what Joker is doing wrong, but we see him simultaneously as a protagonist. That's the whole point in terms of building up a character. Even if they're anti-heroes or if they do something terrible, we want to have sympathy for them. They want to have these, they're not redeemable, but they have these redeeming qualities. I think this movie is very much about the psyche of the Joker and that villains. I think this is one of the more unique aspects of the film, and that we see that villains really do get made, whereas in previous adaptations, villains are just there, you know, more or less for the sake of being there, and we kind of see this one-dimensional version of the Joker. And not to say that that's bad, but this movie is unique because we're really getting into the psyche of a character. They're not just bad for the sake of being bad. They they have this, oppressive lifestyle that and very antagonistic lifestyle that makes them turn out to be that way. And the Joker forms these bonds and connections that are quite genuine with a lot of people, like his friend from work, and then also the neighbor that lives next to him that he has this affection for, that he's very fond of. And we kind of see that he has this balance of good and evil. Of course, he's mostly evil, but we see that he has these redeeming qualities. And one thing that this movie does is that it shows that every act of killing that Arthur engages in is because of revenge, which makes the audience sympathetic. Not that they would support that, but they make it very sympathetic. And they're not supportive of him as a killer, but as a character. And this undoubtedly makes the audience more invested, as opposed to just seeing him as a maniacal killer, like in horror movies. And we see why he does it and where he's coming from. The gradual progression of sociopathy is what keeps the movie very energized and going. This sort of almost like this character development into the Joker, which I think is really fascinating. And I think that's a one of a kind film where I think we're so used to seeing the Joker as a kind of character that is maniacal, and we kind of do see some backstory in previous films. Like we see that in the 1988 Joker, or rather 1989 Joker, um, from the Batman, from Tim Burton's Batman. But this time we're really seeing a kind of modern taxi, Martin Scorsese's taxi version of the Joker. And I think that's really very unprecedented. We've seen that in maybe smaller adaptations and cartoons, but we've never gotten an actual movie. And I think that's what's really brilliant about it. So the first movie is all about him. And I think it was a good start to what is probably going to be some kind of saga. And of course, we're also introduced to, um, you know, Thomas Wayne and even Bruce Wayne. So we might get another, sort of after the saga, we might get an introduction to, Batman and the Joker, and we might get an R-rated Batman and Joker film. I think that's probably where the movie is going to go. I think that's where this whole franchise perhaps might go. But I think in anticipation for the second one, um, we're going to get a musical, and I think it's going to be things are going to be really interesting. I think that's going to be a one of a kind, um, you know, endeavor in and of itself because we're getting this R-rated Joker film that is also a musical, and we're really going to get a much more complicated film. We're going to get a film that doesn't really talk about we're still going to get the psyche of the Joker, but we're going to see him more as the Joker. So the first one is more of like a development of the Joker, whereas now the second one, we're getting the actual Joker, and I think things are going to get much more interesting and much more complicated. And we're going to see maybe young Bruce Wayne might even make an appearance because this movie is supposed to be 2 years after the original one. So Bruce Wayne is still a young boy, and we might see him. We might see a kind of mini, um, sort of like mini adaptation of like, kind of like Bruce Wayne when he's a kid, and then how he kind of gets scared of bats. So yeah, we might get all that. But other than that, we're gonna get some kind of a musical that is going to be a lot of fun, and the budget for this new film is going to be like $200 million. So we're going to get a lot more action. It's going to be probably more of a sort of a mix of the original one, but also kind of like a superhero movie, but it's actually about a villain. So it's like a super villain kind of movie. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. What do you guys think about the Joker? And what do you guys think about the Joker Part 2? Let me know what you think. And yeah, it was really fun talking about this. And I hope to see you guys next time. Thank you.